So we're going to talk about quantity expressions today, les quantités. And when we were in the market section with our fruits and vegetables, we had actually talked about two quantities already. We know that un kilo or un kilogramme means a kilogram, which is a metric weight measurement. And une livre, pay attention to gender, une livre means a pound or a half a kilogram. So we've learned those two weight measurements. There are some other quantity expressions that you guys already know. So most, if not all, of the phrases on here should look familiar to you. Combien de is the question that we would ask about quantity. Combien de means how much or how many. Un peu de means a little bit of. Assez de means enough of, like just the right amount. Beaucoup de means a lot of, and trop de means too much of, so there is an excess. So most of these phrases are ones that you should already be familiar with. Now, notice that every single phrase ends with de. We're going to talk about that more coming up. For right now, pronunciation. Répétez. Combien de? Un peu de. Assez de. Beaucoup de. Trop de. Now, if we're talking about buying groceries, there are some more specific quantities that we might be using. So let's talk about these. Une boîte de. I have two pictures here because boîte can mean two very different things. Une boîte means a box, as in like une boîte de céréales, a box of cereal. Une boîte can also mean a can, like une boîte de légumes, a box or a can of vegetables. So it can mean either a box or a can, depending on the context. Une bouteille de means a bottle of, so you might buy a beverage in that. Une douzaine de, a dozen of. Now notice you would say a dozen of eggs rather than simply a dozen eggs, or a dozen of donuts rather than just a dozen donuts. We always need that word de, meaning of, as a connector in between the quantity and the item. And then another metric measurement that we have here, un litre de. Un litre de is a liter of. And you're probably familiar with liter only from soda. Quite often we buy soda in a 2-liter bottle. So 1 liter obviously would be about half that amount. So beverages and other liquids will be measured in liters in France. A few other specific quantity expressions. Un morceau de veut dire a piece of. Un paquet de veut dire a package of. Un pot de veut dire a jar of. And une tranche de veut dire a slice of. So let's talk about the difference between a piece and a slice. I would use morceau if I was talking about a hunk of cheese like this, or for example, a slice of, or a piece of cake, or a piece of pie, something that's maybe kind of triangular in nature, or if someone had like bars, maybe something that was cut into pieces like that, I would use morceau. We would use tranche for like deli meat, if it was cheese that was going to go on a sandwich, or maybe even a slice of pizza. You would say une tranche de pizza. The difference between the two is that un morceau means something that is 3-dimensional, essentially, okay? So not flat. Une tranche is something that's flat, like a piece of deli meat or a slice of cheese to go on a sandwich, or pizza is for the most part flat. Morceau is something that is more 3-dimensional in shape. So I know that sometimes in English the word piece and slice might be interchangeable. The difference between these two is morceau is kind of 3D and tranche is more 2D, okay? Pronunciation on these phrases. Répétez. Un morceau de, un paquet de, un pot de, une tranche de. And because I missed it on the last group, we're going to practice pronunciation on these. Répétez. Une boîte de, une bouteille de, une douzaine de, and un litre de. Okay, so here is your vocab list. What I'd like you to do is pause, fill out as many as you remember, and then we'll go through the rest together. Un peu de, a little of. Assez de, enough of. Beaucoup de, a lot of. Trop de, too much of. Une boîte de, a box or a can of. Une bouteille de, a bottle of. Une douzaine de, a dozen of. Un litre de, a liter of. Un morceau de, a piece of. This is the one that's three-dimensional. Un paquet de, a package of. Un pot de, a jar of. And une tranche de, a slice of. This is the one that's flat, like deli meat or sandwich cheese or a slice of pizza. Now, I mentioned about how all of these expressions use the word de. We have been working on partitive articles, which are du, de la, de à l'apostrophe, and des, and we use those in French to express unspecified amounts. So remember, all of those words mean some. So du jambon, some ham. De la tarte, some pie. Okay, we don't know exactly how much, it's just some of it. When we're expressing a specific quantity, however, that quantity expression is always followed by just de, not any of these, but just plain old de, and then the noun. So, for example, je veux de la moutarde would be I want some mustard. But if I want to be more specific, I could say je veux un pot de moutarde. I want a jar of mustard. The word de all by itself means of. So we're not saying some. De by itself is of. We use that in between the quantity and the item. Je voudrais du fromage would be I would like some cheese. Je voudrais un morceau de fromage would mean I would like a piece of cheese. So the du becomes a de here. J'achète des œufs means I'm buying some eggs or I'm buying eggs. J'achète une douzaine de means I'm buying a dozen eggs, or really we're saying it as a dozen of eggs. Now notice what happens here. De, de, becomes D apostrophe before a vowel, but de plus the word just makes the sound de. So all of this sounds the same as de or the same as the number 2 in French. Une douzaine de, a dozen of eggs. Okay, so that's how we use these quantity expressions. Notice that if it's an unspecified amount, we use our partitive article, but once we add in a specific quantity, we change that article and we just use de as our connector between the quantity and the specific item.